iOS 18 versus One UI 7 mid 2025. That video is coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to iOS 18.5 versus One UI 7, which is better in mid 2025. Now, I just recently got the May update for the S25 Ultra, and you can see by this new wallpaper here, this is iOS 18.5. I want to begin by talking about the first section, and that's going to be our home screen customizations. So I do have it looking kind of basic here on my home screen, but you do know pretty much by now that you can just go to edit. You can go ahead and customize your home screen in different colors. Let me know your thoughts about the dark mode icons for iOS. Do you appreciate them? Do you like the tinted mode? One thing I don't like about iOS's tinted mode, personally, is that it's all in dark icons. I want to see a light tinted mode. That would be nice. But you can put it on automatic, and then you can go ahead and make the icons large as well. In addition to that, I do find a lot of the widgets on the home screen for iOS to be quite nice. So if we scroll down, they do all have like the same shape and stuff like that, different sizes and formats, although it's nowhere near as extensive as the widget support you can find on the Android platform. But I do like the polish of the widgets over here. Other than that, there's not much more. I mean, you could go into the App Store and there is icons and things of that sort you can change. You can get a different aesthetic here with certain applications. So there's many ways to do it, although I do feel like it's a little bit more tricky, a little bit more work to get it to look like this for some of these apps. But there is quite a bit of customization you can do, at least to the home screen, but it doesn't really extend beyond there. It's still the core experience for everyone else. The app library, control center, like the whole look is not going to change up too much besides maybe how you customize that home screen. Now over here for One UI 7, this is of course running on the Android platform, but there's a lot more you can do. Like, of course, we do have ourselves different wallpapers and styles and different color palettes and things of that sort, which is already pretty good. You can theme out the icons on here as well. But Samsung has a whole theme store, like an entire theme store. So the customization expands much further here for the home screen. If you combine that with the fact that you can download open source software, I mean, that is risky in some situations, so make sure you download for reputable sources. You also can download different launchers, and I like that they have these minimal launchers. They have these launchers that are a little bit more in detail, like with features and stuff. You know, some people try to mimic sometimes different. I think the worst way to try to customize an Android phone is try to mimic iOS, because you can't really do that. Like, if you want to use iOS, just get an iPhone. Like, I've tried it before. It just doesn't turn out super well. I do like to customize with things like Nova Launcher. It's an older school launcher. Even some of these launchers over here can be fun. And I like some of these people who are developing these minimalist, phone launchers. Those are pretty fun to use when you get tired of all the overwhelm of application. But the thing is that these phones don't tend to get boring. You can just have so much fun with them. And on top of that, if we go over here into settings, you can change different app sizes, just like you could do on those phones over there on the iPhone. So you can change icon sizes, widget labels over here are available, and the customization extends further, because you can even customize the app drawer. If you just sort this by custom order, you can have a horizontal app drawer, or you can go ahead on One UI 7 and have a vertical app drawer. So it goes even further than that too. On the widgets, like when I do add a widget here for the Samsung experience, let's go over here to, let me just add this widget right here, for example. Not only can I resize it, that's obvious, but you can actually change different widget settings in here. So we can match the phone settings. We can make them light, dark mode, and I can change different transparency. So there's quite a bit of widget settings as well. You can also kind of like change the sizing on the iPhone as well, but they tend to have, they match it when you go dark mode. However, this is just a little bit more in depth. A lot of the One UI widgets are actually quite nice as well. They do match up very well. But on the home screen in general, your customization is just so much more for One UI 7. And I think it was pretty clear what I showcased here. Now moving on to the area of lock screens, if we go over here to the iPhone, you'll see on the iOS 18, you can actually change your lock screens from here. It's right on the actual lock screen itself. You can customize them like so. You can also change different blurs and stuff like that. Like you can blur the home screen like that. You can change different colors. You can pair them, gradients. You can put photos. And I like how you have different wallpapers you can just cycle through on the home screen. I do actually quite like that. But you can also customize the clock as well right there from this area. So let's go ahead and hold on. Let's go ahead and customize. And you can change different clock settings. You can have different colors of that sort, different thickness. It's really up to you. And then you have multiple widgets. And again, I think iOS carries over its nice, very polished looking widget section over here that just kind of matches up with the home screen. Now, of course, your location and stuff has to be enabled for those weather widgets to show, but you get the gist. This phone right here, the iOS 18.5, definitely has quite a nice, simple, but effective customization on the lock screen. Although, again, it doesn't really extend too far beyond a few colors and a few widgets. So besides a different icon, most people's lock screen is still going to look basically the same. All right, so when editing the Samsung lock screen, they actually give you more customization because if we go over here to styles, you have multiple different clock styles, different like calendars you could place on there. That is, to me, a little bit more productive. In addition, they have these fun modes as well over here. And while I have seen some Android phones that do have maybe even more customization on the lock screen, Samsung does it pretty well. They have a nice, useful amount, and you can actually move this clock around wherever you want. You can also easily resize the clock like that. Somebody told me one time, that huge clock gives me anxiety. I don't need to know the time that large. That makes sense somewhat. I mean, you time all up in your face, like, I don't need to know the time that crazy. You can see over here, if we do bring it bigger right there, you can see the date, the weather. So overall, you kind of just have a lot of nice different abilities to change the clock. Now, Apple had quite a few of these, but Samsung seems to have a few more of these different styles. You can also download different fonts, so you can see how the customization goes deeper. And you could do the same thing. You can make it thin or bold here on these clock styles. So it's really up to you how far you want to take the customization here on the lock screen. And you can also remove the weather information or clock, make it more simple, or you can move it a top or the bottom. So generally, I do think the overall lock screen customization goes to Samsung. They also now have the Now bar right there, so you can just go ahead and see a daily brief of what's going on here, especially on the S25 series specifically. Both of them do have things like camera and phone at the bottom of the lock screen, so they can easily access those things. And Samsung allows you to access your camera via a double click of the power button, whereas with iOS, you are going to be using the camera control button here on the 16 devices. So yeah, lock screens to me, I think they win on the Samsung phones overall. Let me know your thoughts down below. And when it comes to Control Center versus Quick Settings, I do tend to prefer the look of Control Center. I think it's a very modern, clean, polished aesthetic. I do like how they did extend the ability to add more controls on the second page. It makes it more useful. It's still a little bit laggy looking here when I go through these controls, so they got to speed that up a bit. But they basically allow you to control the entire, everything you really need from the iPhone to do right here. So that's pretty neat. However, it does take a little bit of work getting it all set up the way you want, but you can go through different things here and be right on your way. So definitely, I would say pretty neat. You can also change the size of these things just as you would with widgets. So this definitely makes the overall look more appealing to you depending on how you want it. You can have big buttons, smaller buttons, but not all of them are resizable. As you can see, you can move these around, but you cannot resize the brightness and the volume one or the focus modes. You see that one's not able to be resized, but the ones you do add, like flashlight, you could resize. Dark mode, you could resize. Some of those are pretty useful features. So really, it's up to you. That's definitely quite a neat thing. But the control center is pretty basic. You actually can go into settings and you could scroll down here and go to Control Center, and you can reset it as well and access within apps. Now over here for quick settings on the One UI 7, if we pull down from the right, you are going to find, I do like how they have dark mode really easily accessible. Brightness sliders are easily accessible as well. And they have a few controls down here. Now if you pull down with 2, they don't really pull down anymore. I'm pretty sure there's a way you could tweak that to pull the whole entire quick settings down. But if we go ahead and look here, you'll see it kind of looks similar in that we all have these little circles to go ahead and access these features. But I like how you can kind of just hide those out of the way. That's pretty neat. If we go over here to the settings and we hit edit, it's all right here, the available buttons. So they're definitely pretty similar in that respect. Generally, they both kind of do the same things. They're both translucent here. They just look a little bit different. They're not really that much different overall. So it's kind of, to me, basically a draw there in the control center and the quick settings menu. Although I feel like when you start downloading apps, more controls become available for the Samsung up in here. So there's definitely probably more you can get in your quick settings than on control center. But at the same time, you don't want it overbearing anyway. So to me, they're basically a draw. It just depends on which one you prefer the aesthetic appeal of on these two phones. Now, when it comes to their app drawers, app libraries, Apple organizes them here in the app library, which I tend to like for organization. I mean, it's pretty nice, but at the same time, I don't like how it's like I have to go click this. It's like a two-step process to get into things. So to me, it's a little bit of a slower experience. So I still feel like iOS on the app drawer, it's better to just put your apps on the home screen where you want them. And the whole experience of finding them is not too hard, but it can look a little cluttered to some people. What's nice though is that they do have a hidden folder section where you could actually hide applications you don't want people snooping around on or seeing. And they do require Face ID. As you'll see, Face ID trigger up there. So definitely, if you want to hide some apps, that's pretty cool. Although some argue that having a hidden folder that's labeled hidden is kind of defeating the purpose of a hidden folder, because you can see that it's a hidden folder. So somebody's going to know, what do you have hiding in there? Maybe we should have a way to hide that hidden section, like a double tap or some kind of like hidden way to get in there. Because it's kind of like obvious. Okay, you're hiding something right there. You get what I'm saying? But overall, it still matches the consistency of like how these are in the same shape. And then we go over here, the widgets are in the same shape. The control center is in the same shape. So that's what I like about iOS. I like how everything is very consistent. And One UI 7 is doing a good job at that as well. You'll see the widget looks like that. The controls up here are looking like that. If we scroll down, you'll see even the search bar right here. The now bar has that similar shape. Definitely all of this stuff looks quite nice. Now, talking about the app drawer with Samsung, they did change it up to be vertical here in One UI 7, and you'll see we do have alphabetical listing here, and the alphabetical format I think is faster. Once you get used to it, it's a faster experience. But before they were in the horizontal mode, now you can still get it with the custom order. But for me, I don't really like this horizontal mode anymore because it slows me down. I do like the alphabetical update. However, I would like for them to give us a horizontal option, but still be in alphabetical order. That would be nice for a future update. But generally, it's kind of, you just know if it's A through Z, you know, just scroll all the way down to get to Zillow or get to X or get to YouTube. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you just scroll all the way down and you know where you're going to. If you know it's calendar, like I'm going to scroll up to C and I'm going to see the calendar right there. Or I'm going to go get the Find my Samsung right there is fine. I just go to F. If you can't do it that fast, you just go over here and you'll see right here what you're looking for. So that's pretty nice. Although it is to some people not going to be quite as neat because, you know, they're just all over the place instead of like in those categories like on Apple. But Samsung has a solution for that. You can actually make folders within your app drawer. So you can put all your apps and folders neatly. Again, though, I do feel like with Android phones like the Samsung device, it might take you some time to get all that set up versus iPhone already having it pre-categorized for you. So that's what I mean about more simple. I'm going to sit here and put all these folders, whereas Apple already has them in categories over here. So that's one of the things I'm talking about. It's a little bit easier to just turn on an iPhone and go. Now, when it comes to app management, I do like how if you go to settings and you scroll down the apps, all the apps are now in this nice categorized list. Again, alphabetical here. And you could see they do group them by letter. So all my Y apps are YouTube apps, and you'll see they're all grouped in there. And then all my T apps are right here, and you get the point. So app management, pretty good there. Also, if we go over here, you can put them in folders. In addition, you could just hold down to hit edit home screen, and you have to individually delete them like that. Or you can just kind of like move them around like this. You can hold one like this, and then you can just move them around wherever you want. So pretty easy, pretty good app management overall for this phone. But let's take a look at how Samsung does. So how I feel about the widgets are that the Samsung widgets are a little bit more interactive. Some of them, not necessarily all the Samsung specific ones, but definitely the Android widgets. Sometimes you can just do a little bit more with them. They just go a little bit more deep, I would say, in their usability. However, iOS is catching up, but a lot of them, those widgets that are going to be more useful for interaction, I do think are a lot of times going to be third-party apps, where you can do things like press play right from the app itself, or maybe even scroll through, a to-do list or something like that. You can actually just tap on there to kind of get rid of your checklist right there on the widget itself. Now, Apple does have a nice widget, the stack widget, which allows you to stack different widgets. But at the same time, we do have similar type of usability, but a lot more of the iOS widgets just feel like more at a glance versus being like way more interactive. That's the best way I could say it. They look very polished though. I just feel like there's a little bit more extensive widget use that you can do on Samsung, but that goes back to that whole kind of like the One UI 7 being more like an amazing do-it-all tool versus iOS being a little bit more polished, a little bit more clean looking. They sacrifice some of that functionality for that experience. Now this is going to be a fun one. System fluidity. So iOS actually has a pretty slow animation. It kind of is designed for 60 hertz phones to look smooth. This way you don't really perceive or have the perception that there's any slowdown or refresh slowdown. And nobody really complained about 60 hertz until ProMotion came out, and kind of like everyone else wants to have that now. Android phones had it before Apple had it anyway, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like once that came out, like nobody wants to praise 60 hertz displays, but that makes a lot of sense. 60 hertz is not the best, but because of that, I feel like have slower animation. So for some, it feels a very natural look because you click it and it just kind of like flies in. It's posh. It just flies in. However, iOS in general has been experiencing, to me, a couple of stutters, a couple of hiccups here and there. We'll see if iOS 18 gets 18.5 gets a little bit better. But sometimes when you first boot it up, if you try to go to your lock screen, it could lag up or something of that sort. So generally, I would say that the iOS experience is still smooth and polished, and the animations look really good. But the phone itself is just kind of feeling a little bit slower than what I think it's capable of. Now on the Samsung, I feel like they finally have found a great balance between speed, but if you slow it down, it's also smooth and fast. So look at that. It's really nice. And if you come out, look at the animation. If we come out, the animation just kind of like, it's butter. It just goes really nice with your finger. It will follow how you come out. So you see that? Just really smooth looking. It's pretty impressive. Like that. Just looks really nice. If you flick it out of there really quick, it does get a little less nice. Hold on. Let's go back here. It does get a little bit less nice, but you get my point. Like, it still looks smooth. So Samsung, and then if you go quick, look at this. If you fly through, it's fast, blazing fast. So the phone, and you can actually make it quicker with some developer options tweaks. So you see that the overall fluidity and animation speed, I feel like Samsung is winning now. They have nicer animations than they used to, and they're pretty much consistent now across the experience with also having speed. So there's no real complaints there at this point. Maybe a few applications that aren't, well developed could cause some hiccups, but I've actually seen some more stutters. Like I would try to hit the camera control button and the whole thing would go black. The phone, it wouldn't even open the camera control. So I'm just saying, like, There are a couple of things that I haven't been liking. We'll see how 18.5 goes because that was a huge bug fix update today. But definitely, I think Samsung is really headed in the right direction here. So when it comes to privacy and security, Apple has these great privacy features where you can really dive deep and change analytics and improvements. You could change Apple advertising, and some of this stuff the average iPhone user will never even know they can do. You can also turn on a stolen device protection and a lockdown mode. So I think Apple wins here. I think they put a more emphasis on this area. Samsung has locked it down for business users with Samsung Knox, things like the secure folder over here. And also you have multiple password options. In addition, biometrics with the fingerprint, it is in display. So it's not like you could touch it on the side, but Apple has Face ID. We have a scanner right here. It's not easily fooled by a picture, but it's still not as secure as Face ID. You also have nice passkey usage over here. At the end of the day, I feel like both of them do a great job in this area. Both are very secure and lockdown phones, but I do think Apple is winning in this area because I feel like they let you do a little bit more, see a little bit more what the app is doing. You can do that on a Samsung, but it's just a little bit more work. So overall, I like where Apple is focusing on this. I think they do a really good job in this area. It's one of the reasons why I really enjoy using iPhone. I think it's a very locked down, secure phone that gets updates, especially for security patches, incredibly fast. So when it comes to long-term software updates, I do think long-term Samsung might give you one extra update according to what they're saying these days. But based on what I've seen with the One UI 7 taking a while to get here, I don't have a lot of confidence currently in how fast they're going to get me these updates. So for me, I think the actual update experience is still better on iOS. Everyone gets it at the same time. If you see an article that iOS 18.6 has launched, iOS 19 has launched, you can rest assured that you're going to be able to download that, whether it's, you can't download it right away because it's developer beta, or if you can, it's going to be pretty soon and it's going to be all at the same time. So the actual update experience, I have to give the nod to iOS 18 over One UI 7. However, for Android phones, I got to say Samsung is really the king, one of the kings of this area. They kind of got pushed back with their recent One UI 7 debacle, pausing the update. Google Pixel is still going to be the first to get Android because it is the vanilla Android phone. It is the main maker of Android, so they're always going to get the first big update. Samsung throws their skin on top, so that takes a little while, but comparatively, OnePlus is doing pretty good there as well. I think all of them are getting better here on the Android side, but they're just still not beating iOS in this area. And I don't know that they ever will because they don't control Android. They control their phone, but they don't control the software on their phone. They got to wait for Google to get the software out there. So that could always give Apple the advantage and the edge here. Now, when it comes to AI, Apple does have visual intelligence. Over here, you hold it down. They do have the all-new Siri, which is integrated with ChatGPT, but most phones could just download an AI chatbot. I don't like the new Siri as much as I like Gemini. I think Gemini is way more useful because you are integrating a chatbot right into the phone itself. If you go over here to Apple Intelligence, they are signifying it's beta here, and I think there's actually a lawsuit for them not getting this out fast enough. I think I seen an article about that. But they talk about what they have for the AI. You can see right here, the rewrite tools are pretty useful, and the AI summaries in Safari are useful as well. However, some people don't think that this is incredibly useful. I personally haven't found it super useful. It's just not a lot of AI stuff going on for me. Whereas I think Samsung really is going to town with it. If we go over here in the settings and we scroll down to Galaxy AI, they have similar features in that they both have summarize, some summaries on articles, but Samsung goes a little bit deeper with their AI stuff, and it's a whole suite here. Now, hopefully they don't charge for this right away or in the future, or it's just like they put more advanced features, and then if you want those, you can get them, and they keep these. But you got real-time call translate. I mean, you have the works here. Those writing tools are also here as well on Samsung. You have an interpreter to do live translations. In addition, the Now Brief will give you AI stuff as well. And if you hold down here, this is the big one. Gemini and Circle to Search on here is just awesome. So overall, that integration to me, much better. on the Samsung device. Smart assistance wise, I think Siri's better than Bixby, but I don't even use Bixby. I use the Gemini and Google experience on there, which is a nice thing about the Samsung is you kind of have all those great things that the Pixel offers, but the features that Samsung offers as well. All right, now let's move on to multitasking and split screen. So multitasking on the iPhone is non-existent. It's basically a single app tasking, one at a time. And this is the biggest Achilles heel to me on iPhone and iOS in general. It has been and it will remain this way until they bring split screen. There's nothing else to talk about. It's one app at a time, guys. Let's move on to the real king of multitasking, the Samsung Galaxy. Now we'll go over here and you'll see I could pop view here, but I can also drag this down, make it small into this little thing right here, this little app bubble, and then I can go ahead and add more. Not only that, I can also split screen multiple applications. Like let me split this one right here with, let's say, Play Store. And then I can go ahead and flip those around. But not only that, I can close out that app pair and it'll still be there. And you'll see it'll still be there. Then I can go back to my single task application and you'll see that I can get on with that calendar and go back to what I'm doing over here. And that's fine. That'll also stay open while I bring out my dual calculators for my accountant work. And you'll see over here, those app pairs are open over here now. So you can see that the multitasking is incredible here on this device. Also, you can add different app pairs if you want to use those different app pairs. And then you can go ahead when you bring the pop view window, you can actually make this smaller like that, or you could just move it around and have multiples. Now, when you pull this into Dex, you also will expand your screen real estate and now allow you to multitask like a computer. So Samsung Dex further improves it with just a monitor. So really, I mean, it's really quite the multitasking beast over here. And it can do all of that without a hitch, without a lag. And you can do that all day, every day. Never need to worry about, oh, can I split screen? Not only that, on the home screen, we can rotate the home screen into a landscape orientation, which is what Apple used to be able to do back in the days of the Plus, but they can't do it anymore, which is kind of annoying. Like, why can't we do this on the iPhone? Makes no sense to me. So definitely the Samsung overall with that usability functionality is way ahead. So for mid 2025, let's discuss the camera experience. Now the camera experience is macro mode, ultra wide, 1x. You can also go on different millimeter lenses here. You can crop in a bit on that lens. You have 2x, 5x, zooming like this. Very smooth on the iPhone. The central features are here as well, different aspect ratios. In addition to that, different exposure values, and you do have different timers, and all the simplistic functionality you need is right here. However, if you do want to go a little bit more granular, you do have to go in the settings, scroll down to the camera section over here, and you have to go in to change things like your different formats. If you want a high efficiency format, you want Pro Max. If you want RAW, you got to do some of these things in here. You could actually access RAW right from the camera now under photo right there, RAW Max. But at the same time, there's still the more in-depth stuff is still in the camera section over there. But the iPhone camera is tried and true. It's super easy to use. And with the camera control button, that is in a great location. And I actually like using it. I don't really care about the features they integrated there. I just use it as a button to take photos. But then moving over to Samsung, on One UI 7, they brought the controls down. So it's a lot easier to use even bigger Samsung phones with one hand. You can see all the controls are right here where your thumb would rest. You have video and you have more. Now in more, you could actually edit these and you could bring these down into this section over here and you could just kind of put the photo modes you want. Now it says you cannot move the photo or video out of there, but you can have just photo and video down there if you want it very simple. So Samsung can be simple if you want to make it that way. Now, if you're wondering if it looks so cloudy, that's because I have the log mode on. Now, if I go over here to more, like, look at all these features. They're all right here. Pro mode. Now, Pro is really pro. It's like a really pro like camera without having to go and download something. Now, Pro video, tons going on here. You can see histograms. You can see audio monitoring. And you can also monitor audio with the headphones attached. So this is a true pro camera setup. You got to take advantage of it for it to even matter to you though. And you could do this on some of the other Samsung phones as well. Now, I will say that dual recording is also a unique feature to the Samsung One UI experience, something you're not going to find on the iPhone. So definitely, again, Samsung wins in the feature department, but also most of the settings are just right here live and center. You also don't have to leave the camera app to go to your multiple settings. It's actually right there. If I go over here, it's right there. I don't got to leave, go to settings, and then find the camera settings. So that's where Samsung is still winning. Again, it's just a smarter integration right there. However, there is no camera button on here, so you're not going to be taking pictures like that. Although with most phones, even iPhone and every other phone, you can still use the volume marker. So it's not really a massive issue. At the end of the day, the camera app experience on One UI, to me, is a little bit better because it's just, everything's right there. The iPhone, though, is better for the average user who doesn't care about features. They just want to take a picture, bye. Take a video, bye. Like, that's what it's for. It's consumer grade, with the pro user having a few more things to go deeper. But if we want to go really deep as a pro user, Samsung is still the better experience for those of you who use professional cameras. Now, when it comes to app ecosystem experience in general with different products, I don't want to go too deep on here, even though this is a very important section, because it's pretty simple. Apple controls software and hardware, so the Apple Watch experience is very Apple, very iOS-like, whereas the Android Wear, the Android experience, the Windows laptop, the Samsung Galaxy tablet, which is very similar to the phone, there's a little bit more fragmentation there to me. They both have these quick share, airdrop-like features, and a lot of them kind of match up in a lot of similar areas. But I would say Apple is still the king of this department. They just are. Both of them do a good job, though, so you're not really going to be behind if you want to build out an ecosystem. But once you get into that ecosystem, especially if you start buying stuff from the Galaxy Store or the Apple Store, or even the Google Play Store, you're going to be kind of stuck in there a little bit if you start investing a lot of money into those apps. And the iPhone still has, with the iOS 18 experience, better, I would say, polished apps, specifically things that are just like, for example, video editors, or just updates to a lot of their phones. They're just better. These are better social media phones. You just open a camera and go. The results tend to turn out better for me when it comes to things like this. So iPhone is the king of social media usage. But let's go over here to the Samsung. The Samsung does have the Galaxy Store and I would say the Play Store. So what you have here to me in day-to-day life here in mid-2025 is a phone that's fun to use. If you like to tinker, you like to mess around with your phone, you like to use a lot of apps that are exclusive or just different, fun, like I would say Samsung's more fun. You can play with this phone all day. It just has so much to play with. It's just so fun, dude. Really is. You can make this look like a Windows phone. You can make this look like I said Windows phone in 2025. There's still apps that make it look like it's a Windows laptop. You can make this look like whatever you want. You can download different applications you'll never find over here. So that's just something to note. And then you don't have to have it all cluttered because you can have a really clean screen setup on both of them. So yeah, that's just how I feel about their apps quality and app stores. Now, both of them do have good battery features. We do have ability to slow the charging down, so we don't have this issues with like battery degradation too early. So good battery protections on both, which is a very good, neat feature. But generally, you do have a few more power saving modes for battery on the Samsung. So that is going to be the winner for stuff like that. But Apple does have a really good area of accessibility features, really nice, neat stuff there. We do have good accessibility features on the Samsung, but I think they're a little bit better on the iPhone if you like accessibility and user-friendly features. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Samsung phones to me still have better signal strength, and overall I do think they are really, really ahead when it comes to just overall feature set. Like, they're just so fun and they have everything. But Apple still shines with their overall look, their polish, and I think they just have a lot of grandfathered in users who are not going to switch. In addition, the ecosystem is strong. So mid-2025, the final verdict is, I think they're basically tied when it comes to what they can do for the user they're targeting. But I do think if I was to give one the victor, in terms of we're going straight from the tech perspective, Samsung is just doing more. They have more with their phones to do. So they are technically probably the better option if you care a lot about features and you still want smooth and speed. They just have more going on for their phone. But the value with Apple, I think, is more user experience. It's more in, the branding, the ecosystem, and everything that comes along with that. So you really can't go wrong either way. So that's my wrap up here on iOS 18.5 versus One UI 7 mid 2025. If you found the video helpful, entertaining, informing, do me a favor, click the like button for me, subscribe for more in-depth content like this, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.